What is up, everybody? Today on Pew Pew Reviews, we are going to be continuing our trend of cleaning firearms. Today is going to be our first semi-automatic pistol, and we are going to be cleaning my favorite little carry gun here. This is the Ruger Security 9, chambered in 9mm. And speaking of chamber, let's make sure there's nothing in it. So if you're a new gun owner and this is your first time actually taking your gun apart and or cleaning it, then what you're going to want to do first is drop your magazine out of the gun, bada boom, just like that. Set that aside. Make sure you're aiming the gun away from yourself, away from anybody else, and then do your chamber check. So you're going to pull your slide back like so, lock it back. My slide lock is on this side. Just apply a gentle pressure upwards as you're pulling your slide back. That's going to hold it back for you. You're going to look right down there into the chamber. Make sure there is no round sitting in there. Mine is clear. And you can also, if you're more comfortable this way, just rack it a few times and also give it a visual check as well. And yeah, so I'm comfortable with this gun now. It is empty. It is clear. I'm gonna drop my hammer there, and let's get to work here. So, when you want to strip the Security 9, you are just going to pull the slide back, be like a couple millimeters, something like that. It's barely at all. Just line this groove right here up with the pin right there. And some people could do this with their nails. I don't have nails, and it's just going to cause me pain to try to do so. So I'm just going to use my lovely screwdriver here that is part of Tiny Hammer. And this, you can get a hook under it and just pull straight up. And that is going to be your retention pin there. Gonna leave that aside, and your slide's just going to come right off after that. So while it's not toolless, it's not exactly complicated either, so, you know, take what you can get. So to get this guy clean, obviously we're going to need a few things. So this is our cleaning kit, pretty standard. Link in the description below for something similar, if not the same exact one. Going to be using a few more of my 30 cal patches instead of rags, just because they're the right size. They do what I need them to do, and I can't find any more blue rags, so I'm going to have to go on a little shopping trip. And as always, our lovely Hoppy's Elite Gun Cleaner and Gun Oil. They work wonderfully, and they are extremely easy to find. So link in the description below for those as well. So as I said, we're going to start with our frame here, and I'm really just going to start by giving it a little bit of a dry wipe. The areas that we're going to be concerned about are just mainly the metal ones. The hammer itself and any of the rails here that you would actually run the that you would run the slide along. This is going to be all areas where you're going to have lots of motion, so you're going to want to make sure that these are very clean and oiled. Oiled is going to be important here as well. Okay, just getting the sides here in the groove of the rail that your slide runs along there. Make sure the outside is clean there, and then on the inside, relatively simple. Just wipe down any visible surface, especially right in here. This is going to be pretty nasty generally. I've never cleaned a semi-auto pistol that didn't have a pretty nasty rail right here, especially after 10 or so magazines. So once you're happy with how this looks in here, it's definitely a little bit of crud in there I want to get rid of. In most standard cleaning kits, you're going to have a lovely little wire brush like this, tiny side, large side, and that is for exactly this. If you've got those corners there, they're kind of hard to reach with a rag or anything else that you're trying to clean them with. This is a wonderful tool for that. Just get it in there at an angle, get everything off of it, and you can continue your way around just depending on where the dirt is. And yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now, anything that is going to be moving, give it a drop of oil. So I'm going to put a single drop on my hammer pin back here, where the hammer's springs are and everything like that, because that is obviously constantly in motion, and that's more or less going to work its way around in there. I've got the safety that's, you know, that moves in there, so all that's pretty tightly packed. The oil will move itself around a little bit. I'm not going to oil my trigger right now. It should be just fine. It should be just fine. But what I am going to do is put a single drop on this side of the rail, and then kind of rub it in with the cloth here. You don't want to overdo it on your oil. Just make sure that your surface is covered. So a single drop typically does it, especially for these rails like this. Okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is about it for your lower. Simple. And yeah, we're going to set that aside for now. And then we are going to move on to the good part here, and that is the slide. The slide's going to include your recoil rod and spring, your barrel, your firing pin, all that fun junk. So this is actually super nasty, so we are going to give it a nice thorough scrubbing. To get your recoil rod and spring out, simply push forward on it from the back side here. Forward, it's going to come out a little bit. Very, very simple to pop that out. Next, we're going to take our barrel out. So it's going to drop down. It's pretty loose in there. Just push forward on it. It'll come out the front of the gun just like that. And then drop it down at a little angle. Easy peasy. And oh boy, yeah, this thing is absolutely nasty. So because it is super nasty, I am actually going to be taking out the firing pin. I'm going to leave the extractor in place, but the firing pin is definitely one that can come out. Unfortunately, these are roll pins. They're not solid, so that's super obnoxious. So they're going to be kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt to take in and out, but should be all right if you've got. I'm just using little Allen keys here, but this is at a very slight angle. It's coming down from the top, just kind of like, it's canted by like a degree or two, but it's going to come right out the bottom here. If the gun is facing forward, then it's on the right hand side. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to be coming in from the bottom, and then it's going to come out the top. Once again, a wonderful spot for a punch kit. Okay, you'll feel it just starting to make its way down and through. Alright, so the firing pin on this is spring-loaded, so just be aware of that. You don't want it shooting out the back of the gun and you losing your spring, because then your gun is obviously not operational. So here's what we're talking about here. This is the firing pin right there, and this is the pin hole that we are pushing through right there. It's coming out the top just like that, and then we're going to be able to pull this out, and our firing pin here will be able to come free. There is a large heavy spring in here that is pushing this backwards, so just be aware of that. Keep your hand behind it, something like that, so you're not losing that spring. It's a little bit important. Alright. So I'm actually going to hold the firing pin in place, push it down with one hand here, and then push my pin out the rest of the way with the other. So I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's just a kind of a two-handed job, a little bit. There we go. All right, there we have our roll pin, and then our Allen key right now is just keeping that in place. So I'm going to put some pressure right here on the back side of the firing pin as I pull this Allen key out. Out, and boom, there we go. Where's that spring? Alright, there we go. There is our firing pin and firing pin spring there. Last piece I'm going to take off, this is actually the rear sight. You can see I've got a little surface rust underneath it just from the last time I got it wet. So I'm going to pull that off of there, and I'll have to fix it. Like, I'll have to re-sight it in and everything, but I'm not too worried about that. So I'm going to pull that off of there as well. And these are dovetailed in, the front and the back are dovetailed. So we're just going to undo the Allen key there and slide it out the side. So there we go. As you can see, it's pretty rusted all around here. None of it's pitted or anything like that. It's all just surface rust. So I'm going to give that a good cleaning, get that off of there, as well as the bottom sight. So I'm going to clean the plastic piece first. That's going to be the easiest. And while that is being cleaned, I'm going to soak everything else here in some cleaner. So top and inside, front and back, get it a little bit in the firing pin area. Cover my spring and my spring guide because it's nasty. I'll set all the tiny parts on a couple of patches here. Okay, barrel. Just make sure you're getting everything on both sides. Wouldn't want to neglect one side. And last but not least, all of our tiny parts here. Firing pin spring, firing pin retention pin, and this screw for the rear sight. Your barrel may be a little bit different, depending. Just make sure that all surfaces are nice and wiped down. Our barrel is gross. Our barrel is definitely gross. There's particulate matter in there. So I'm going to grab a 9mm brush from our cleaning kit here. Ooh, buddy. Make sure you aim this somewhere where you're comfortable with particulate matter going. When I cleaned the gas tube out on the AK, I got like carbon soaked cleaner all over the white table, and it stained for a couple weeks. The wife was not exactly pleased with that. So look down the barrel, just give it a visual inspection, and we've got the James Bond intro thing going on here. You can see the rifling, it's super clean, very nice there. The other place you're going to want to pay attention to is your feed ramp right back here. So just make sure there's no buildup on that, otherwise you could get failures to feed. So typically if you want to run a patch through your barrel, you're just going to grab this little eyelet. Your cleaning kit should have one. See through it just like that. You're going to want to thread a patch into the eye hole there, and just kind of have a double flag thing going on here, through and through. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So you can see it was a little bit dirty in there, not too bad. With the spring, if you can actually compress it, it's kind of tough, but if you can do it, you can compress it and clean the guide rod underneath. Not really a super practical thing to do, just because it is obviously a very heavy spring, but if you can do it, it works nicely. Last but not least, we have our actual slide here. I'm going to start on the exterior, let that interior soak for a little bit longer, see how much of this surface rust we can get off of here. Should be a fair bit of it. Don't be afraid to get violent with your brushes. So exterior wise, the slide is in pretty good shape here. I'm not too worried about it. I've managed to keep it pretty clean. Obviously outside of the little bit of rust there, that's literally because I stuck it in a river. Okay, now we're going to work on this nasty inside here. And the crucial thing here is just any of these grooves, any of this these areas over here along the rails on the outside, anywhere that is kind of a tight space, You want it to remain as free and clear of dirt and debris as possible. And look at that. That is just from one channel right there. Yuck. That's a lot. That's super gross. So make sure that you're getting, see how this is actually kind of hooked around. Make sure you're getting inside of here as well as next to it there, because that getting gunked up and you can have serious issues with your slide moving. Cool. Actually coming away clean now. So this deep channel in the back here is what I have to worry about now. This is the last area that I'm really concerned about, is this extremely deep channel back here. So I'm actually going to use this guy. This is one of my smaller brushes here. I'm going to get a patch on this and just scrub the living crap out of it. And the same thing applies here as applied before, is if you have any of these corners that you're concerned about that you can't actually reach with a patch, or you're not getting enough off with a brush, then definitely we can employ our lovely wire brush here. Alright, I am very, very happy that is sufficiently clean, so we're going to reassemble now. One thing that is very, very important here, super obnoxious when you're putting this thing back in. There we go. Okay, so you've got the large groove there, and then you've got this smaller groove behind it. Make sure that when you push your firing pin in, and you look through the hole, this hole right here, you're going to be able to see through, but make sure that you're actually in the larger groove, not the smaller one, because the smaller one feels like it should work, but your pin will only go in halfway and get stuck, and you'll have a whole horrible time trying to get it back out again. So just make sure the firing pin is pushed as far in as you can get it. When you're pushing it in, keep in mind that if you do it horizontally like this, the front of it is going to droop down just enough to not make it into that tiny, tiny hole right there. So the best way to do this is vertically. So we can drop our spring in like so. So the spring's in there, and then we can drop our firing pin in. There we go. Just like that. Make sure the groove is facing that direction. And of course it turned all the way around as soon as I dropped it in. Jeez, okay. There we go. Okay, so best way to test this here is to give it a good push. If you can push on it from the back, and it goes, see how it's stopping right there? It shouldn't be doing that. It just means I'm out of alignment with the hole. So I just have to kind of finagle it until it's in the tiny hole. Typically just going vertical, giving it a little bit of a shake, and there we go. See the difference there? I can actually push the whole thing inside of that chamber. Be careful when you're doing this. If you slip, your firing pin will fly across the room. Just don't lose that. The easiest way I found to do this is to actually push this in here. Is to push this in and then stick something through the hole here where the screw would go, normally for the rear sight, and then that will hold your firing pin in place while you put this retention pin in. Then you can pull whatever you did out of there and then put your rear sight back on. So I'm pushing the firing pin forward as far as it'll go, and then I'm putting this Allen key behind it to hold it in place when I put the retention pin in. So the whole contraption is going to look like that from the top. Drop your pin in. Remember, it's going to be at a very slight angle, and that's totally normal. Shouldn't take much force at all to get it back in place. More or less just a few taps. Make sure it's not coming out the bottom there, but make sure it has engaged with the bottom channel, which I don't think it has quite yet, so I'm going to give it a few more taps. Okay, so I think we are in good shape here. I'm going to keep my finger behind on the rear, just behind the firing pin here, just in case it does fly out. I'm not going to lose it. I'm gonna pull my retention piece out here. Okay, so you can see the firing pin is in there now. Just take something and bounce it a couple times. Make sure it's moving, and then look at the front right there and make sure it's actually coming through that hole, which mine is, so we are in good shape. And I'm going to put the rear sight back on again now. Just put that on with your thumb. This is a 1/16 Allen key, by the way. The barrel, to get it back in, you're just going to drop it in at an angle like this, put it in through the front hole, push like halfway forward, and then all the way back. Easy peasy. The retention spring and guide rod, you're going to find there's one flat side and there's one kind of, I don't know, it's smaller, a little bit beveled. Just take the beveled side in the front here and then just give it a small push forward. You can see right here at the back of the barrel there is a groove in which the rear of this will set, just like that. Alright, so before you put this back together, make sure you pull your hammer back. You'll hear it click. It should just be sticking up out of the frame, just like that right there. Line your rear dovetails up on the slide with the rails on the frame. Comes straight back just that little bit. Take your nice retention pin, make sure the groove is facing upwards, drop it into place, give it a very gentle push, you'll hear it click, and that is it. Alright, so there you have it. One shiny, clean Ruger Security 9 ready for action and ready to go back in the holster as soon as we chamber around, safety, magazine. Alright, ready to carry. So anyway, there it is, everyone. That is one lovely and clean gun right there, ready for duty, ready to keep you safe and not jam up on you because it's all full of dirt and junk and gunk. So thanks as always for coming by, checking out what we're doing here. I hope that this was informative to you. I hadn't actually taken the firing pin on this gun out before, so this was actually a learning experience for me in that way as well. And really that's what this is all about, you know, learning a little something new. So in the comment section below, let me know what you thought of this. Let me know if there's a different way that you clean yours, or if I missed a step that you would typically take in your cleaning. As always, you know where the sub button and the bell is. The bell's gonna let you know next time video goes up. So I appreciate you all stopping by once again. Have a good night. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.